Best of R slash malicious compliance episode 48. A while back, I was renting a place when a new, also rental, neighbor moved in next door. They then proceeded to throw a many-person party well into the night, 10 feet from my rental thin TM bedroom wall. Eventually I went around and got them to turn the noise off. A week later, they did it again, waking me up this time, and I was around there again. Some days later, the new neighbor was on my doorstep ranting at me for daring to tell her what to do, and told me I wasn't allowed on her property again. Fine, as you wish, I shall not set foot on that property again. So I did some research. I found the old ad for her rental and contacted her real estate agent for advice. I walked into the local police station and got their advice. On the combined advice, I contacted the local town council, and got even more advice. All of this advice basically came down to, if it happens again, call the council, the agent, or the police. And naturally, I wouldn't want to get Ms. Noisehawks in any kind of legal trouble, would I now? So of course I would be trying to report in roughly that order of preference. Predictably, the neighbor, having decided that I had been put in my place, threw yet another into the morning party, and true to the advice I had been given, I called the council, who, for some reason, didn't pick up the phone at 3 AM, neither did the agent. And, you know, if I had been allowed to go knock on her door, I would have, but she'd taken that possibility off the table. So, on to the last option. After the cops had been called out to break up her violations of the local noise ordinance regulations a further 6 times on separate occasions, and all the details forwarded onto the agent and council each time, things got very quiet for a few weeks. Then, one day shortly after, I had the lovely experience of having one of the officers come to my door and ask if I knew anything about a homeless guy who had been squatting in that very same house. Because the former tenant had been evicted, something about noise violations. And honestly, the squatting homeless guy was so quiet I never even knew he was there. A++ would recommend as a neighbor. Thank you. Next. On mobile, no time for spell check. Due to a managerial blunder years previous, it's very difficult to get qualified service technicians to work on the brand of appliance I service in my area. While we have factory service set up here, basically no one else will work on our stuff. I get sent out to a home that's about a mile down a dirt road, basically in the middle of nowhere, with an additional trip to the middle of nowhere. This customer has a non-working microwave. It's a very expensive convection microwave and a custom cabinet with a trim kit. Very nice. I pull the unit out of the enclosure and open it up. Unfortunately, I don't have the part I need to get it fixed. I type up the quote and he gives me the verbal okay, which is all my company requires me to get. It's usually not an issue. We charge a one-time service fee to cover the trip and we collect that on the first visit. He pays that and we set up the follow-up appointment. Due to a clerical issue on our side, the appointment is never booked, and about 5 days after the missed date we get an understandably upset customer on the phone and promptly get him set up for the return visit. At this point in the story we are at fault. I feel bad because I didn't remember him and he probably spent 4 hours sitting at home waiting for me. Generally I will cut customers a solid price break on labor or parts when we have caused a service issue that messed their day up. The day comes and I show up. He seems fine. I'll let him know that instead of the original quote I'm going to take half the labor off the quote, and he smiles weirdly, but he is a kinda weird old white dude, so whatever. I take the unit apart, run into some complications, resolve them, and don't up the price a cent even though I'm there about an hour instead of 10 minutes. I get this heavy microwave back up into the cabinet, I get all the trim put back, test it, demonstrate to the customer that it works, and the conversation is as follows. Customer equals see me equals me. Me. Okay, we are all set now, I just have to take the payment. See, I'm not going to be paying for this because I wasted an afternoon waiting for you last week. Now this guy isn't wrong, but this is not the way to go about this. Me. You're going to stiff me for $65. See, I already paid you enough the first visit. Me. That was a service fee that you agreed to pay when you booked the first appointment. See, I thought that was how much the repair was going to cost when I booked the appointment, and I was surprised when you told me it was going to cost more than that, but I wanted it fixed. I'm standing in a fully kitted out kitchen in a mansion that is on an estate, and this guy is not going to pay me my $65. I take another look around the kitchen, the dishwashers, the microwave, the wall ovens, the range, the refrigerator, the vent hood. The kitchen also had a nice view of the fully kitted out outdoor kitchen, BBQ, ice maker, side burners, refrigerators. All of these things have 4 things in common, all very custom, all very built-in, all about 8 to 10 years old, and every bit of it has our logo on it. Me. So you're really not going to pay me? C. No, I'm not. Me. Okay. I walk out the door giving this rich dude a low effort handout. I hate that I can basically feel the glow of his smug self-satisfaction as I make my way out the door. Vengeance will be mine. We have a blanket policy to not service appliances for customers who have denied us payment in the past. So once about a year ago I saw his name pop up for a BBQ repair. I called him up and let him know we wouldn't be attending the appointment due to refusal to pay at a previous service call. I called him the day of, not the week prior, when I had actually noticed his name. I hung up when he started yelling and noted it in the file attached to his address that he had become verbal abusive during the phone call. About 3 weeks ago I'm heading to a refrigerator repair call and driving up a dirt road that seems familiar. Pulling over I check the address and sure enough it's him, but he booked under his wife's name. I call the listed phone number and ask for husband's name. She hands the phone to him and I say, me. Hi, sorry I can't attend the call due to refusal to pay on a previous service. C. You have to be kidding me. Me. We have a blanket policy to not return to houses when we have been denied payment. C. Ayahagu. Me. Click. So yesterday I'm at a major appliance retailer fixing a display unit and my favorite sales dude at the place runs up to me grinning. Sales dude equals S. Some guy came in here yesterday to replace all of his appliances, so I took him here first and his head almost exploded. He told me that this is the worst brand ever because none of the service companies will work on it. Me. Did you tell him about our factory service? Yeah, and his head almost exploded again. He started going off about how it was a worthless service because the technicians keeps refusing to come out there. Me. Wait, is this such and such from blah blah? Yeah, what's up with you refusing to go out there? Sales dude knows I'm the only factory tech in the area because he helps his customers set up warranty appointments in my territory and because we talk whenever I work there. So I tell him what's up and he laughed and thanked me for starting his year off right with a 50k sale. Anyways, enjoy your $65 of shat. Thank you. Next. So my beloved mother-in-law, seriously, we got along great, was a functional paraplegic and had a catheter for urine. It was a super rare disease that made her this way, but she was such a sweet person that she is remembered now for her angelic smile and being super nice despite her troubles. A few years ago the in-laws were flying and Tsar pulled her aside for further screening, because, you know, obvious villain. The lady pokes and prods her, and Mill takes it all with equanimity. She was just so nice. Anyway, the Tsar lady gets down to her leg and gets her hands on Mill's leg bag. Tsar, what is this? Mill, a little mortified, my urine. Tsar lady, that's why I ate too much liquid. Just that statement. No solution, no reference to the rules. No thought given to the fact that Mill had been in line for 3 hours by this point. Nothing. Just said it and stood there, with her arms crossed. There was no easy way for them to get back, and no family bathroom inside a quarter mile. My father-in-law starts getting pissed and jawing, and that Tsar lady is resolute, but Mill has lived most of her life in North Jersey. Into the argument she interjects. Mill, in a level tone, get me a bucket. Everyone, what did you say? Mill, much louder, get me a bucket for my urine, right now. See if there's a big bottle in that trash can. Tsar manager, running up doing jazz hands with a look of fright on his face. No, that will be fine. You can board your plane. Mill be rollin' they be hattin'. TLDR. Tsar, empty your urine bag. Mill, give me a damn bucket, fool. Thank you. Next. I hope this isn't the right spot. My daughter, 6, gets off her school bus on her 3rd day at her new school. She has clearly fresh open wounds on her face and chest. Also complains of her back hurting because a kid hit her on the bus. She pointed out the kid who happens to get off at her stop. He was about 6 or 7 also. The mother was there with another small child. I had clearly said excuse me mom when she didn't respond. I assumed she didn't hear me, so I said it again. This time she glared at me, as if talking to her was illegal, and she quickly ushered the children away, only being about 10 feet from me. I got pissed at her lack of acknowledgement and said, "Your son hurt my kid again?" She glared at me and continued to walk away. "There's blood." I said this quite loud. All the other parents and children watched as she shrugged and hurried her kids off. I was willing to settle for "sorry, won't happen again," but she couldn't even manage that. So I went straight to the school. They pulled the bus feed. I got several emails from staff profusely apologizing, and they took steps to protect my child. Needless to say, that kid was suspended. All I wanted was an apology. Kids kicked for a week. So not that drastic. But my first real revenge. At least that I'm posting to Reddit. Edit. The compliance is the fact that she won't do a damn thing about her kid bullying mine. So I took action into my own hands. If there is a better r/ to label this under, just let me know. More than happy to repost in the correct section of Reddit. I am still a noob here. Thanks for understanding. Thank you. Next. Context. I'm in my school's drama club and work backstage for high school productions. Sometimes, the middle school needs help, so high schoolers are called on to help. In this case, I was working spotlights with a middle schooler. The spot booth is at the back of the auditorium, has no lighting of its own, and no ceiling, only walls that go up to your chest. I was also not in a good mood, since I mainly felt like people kept dismissing and ignoring me. I came in for a rehearsal to find my other spotlight worker with a camera. It turns out she's in the middle school yearbook club, and she volunteered to take photos of the practice. I immediately see an issue with it. I do photography as a hobby, and I have a good bit of knowledge about photos. I warned her right away that she shouldn't take photos from the spot booth, since it's a poor angle and lighting, and that I could cover the spots by myself so she could take photos. She just looked at me confused, so I just left it and went up to the spot booth. Right before we start rehearsal, I see her climbing the ladder into the spot booth with the camera around her neck. I tried not to cringe at seeing an expensive camera so close to the metal rungs of the ladder and gave her the same advice. Don't take photos up here. They won't come out nice. There were 3 people in the booth below, 2 girls, 1 boy. One of the girls, likely the one who kept being snippy and annoying towards me, responded, "Don't tell her where she can and can't take photos." At this point, I'd already had to walkie that spots weren't ready, and my mood finally snapped. Fine, she can take photos up here. It went exactly as I expected. I could hear her shutter going way too slow on every shot, the kind that happens in low lighting. She had put herself as far from the stage and stage lights as possible up here. She kept having issues and spent most of the rehearsal sitting on a chair trying to adjust the camera settings. I never saw any of those photos, but I guarantee they weren't good. When it was finally over, I climbed down, got pissed over something else I got snapped at for, and told them that I know what the hell I'm talking about since I'm a photographer, then stormed out. I only feel bad for the nice lady in charge of ebooks. Thank you. Next. Obligatory mobile comment. In my junior year of college I lived in a 24-hour quiet hours on campus apartment. The rules meant any noise at all could be complained about, and 3 complaints and you're evicted. Realistically, it meant if you stopped the party by midnight nobody cared. My roommates and I lived in the last apartment, so I only had the one apartment upstairs as neighbors and I was next to the road. We didn't complain about their noise and they didn't complain about us, me, since my roommates were never there. Until finals week. After the first day of finals I turned on some music to chill. About 20 minutes later I heard a knock on the door. It was the resident assistant, Ra, whose job it is to enforce the rules. He told me their WSS a complaint about loud music. We went back and forth for a bit because I was their only one there and he couldn't even hear my music at the door. The Ra did say he could hear it a bit as he walked up because my window was open, and we walked outside to find that yes, you could hear it outside and it looked like the upstairs neighbor's window was open too. After that he left to talk to the complainer upstairs, and then came back saying she held to the complaint and that if I get 2 more I'll be evicted. After he left I went upstairs to talk, but my neighbor wouldn't open the door. She just yelled though at that I should know better in 24-hour quiet hour housing and to follow the rules and make no noise or she'll complain again. Fine. I turned off my music and waited for her to leave. Around dinner time I heard her leave. Within 10 minutes I heard what I was waiting for, so I called the RA to complain about an intermittent loud noise from upstairs that's making it hard to study. The RA asked if I'm just complaining in retaliation and that we should work it out without his involvement. I told him I tried but that she told me it's 24-hour quiet hours. I offered that if he came and felt my complaint was not legitimate I wouldn't say anything for the rest of finals week. He came and knocked on her door. I could tell when he did so because her dog went crazy. The RA came down and told me it was a legitimate complaint and dogs are not allowed. He then asked when the dog got there, saying it was stupid of her to bring one over right after she complained about her neighbor's noise. My response: October. He just looked at me for about 20 seconds like I had two heads. Finally I continued that yes, he heard me right, that she'd been keeping the dog there for 2 months and I hadn't complained even though it barked like crazy when she wasn't there. He had to go to the campus housing authority and they ultimately told her she could finish out her finals on campus if she immediately removed the dog, but she would need to find alternative housing next semester for violating rules regarding animals on campus. 2 mornings later a dog's barking woke me up, so I called the RA to complain. That night the RAs helped her pack up her stuff and she had to stay in a hotel for the rest of finals. Edit. Grammar. Cool Silver. Also, I was just told that the dog wouldn't bother me again but to call if I heard it again because it was against the rules. I didn't know about the housing authority stuff until they were packing up her room and I asked them what was going on. Thank you. Next. I suppose this is the best place for this story. Happened to me about 7 years ago. I traveled for work and they gave us a flat per diem for food, no receipts required. We also would be at the same location for 1 to 4 weeks. It wasn't a great per diem but no questions asked, so in order to bring back every penny I would buy groceries and keep them in my hotel fridge. Also kept from becoming 20% Chilibee's Tuesday Roadhouse. I was traveling back and got at SAR screening and after they scanned my bags the agent informed me that the unopened peanut butter and jelly would have been tossed. This was a lie, I could tell. It would not make it to the trash can. I'm pretty serious about my peanut butter and jelly and it was not the cheap stuff. So I said could I have it back and give it to someone who was arriving so they could keep it. This was also a lie. She could tell. After she handed it back and while I was collecting my bags we had a brief discussion on the nature of liquids. I could see she was ready to move on. Then I asked if peanut butter was okay if it was in sandwich form. With a petty glee she said, of course. Yes, if the peanut butter. I saw defeat wash over face mid-sentence as I pulled out a nearly full loaf of bread and utensils. I was 3 hours early for my flight and had plenty of time to make my sandwiches. The other TSA officers chuckled and nudged each other as I made my way through security a second time with a bread bag of PB&Js.